I'm Melan, and I've been helping with Woosh's social media and the marketing side of things. And I'm here with Larry, who is here to tell about our experience or his experience with us. So, Larry, I am just curious, when was the first time you heard of Woosh? We talked about Shark Tank a little bit before this. What kind of compelled you, or what opportunities did you see with Woosh?
Several things. Air quality in our home has always been very, very important to me. Plus, I love all things automated, all things technical. I have all my life. I saw it on Shark Tank, as you said, and then I purchased it, I think not too long after that, after it was shown. And some of the things that impressed me about it before I bought it was the quality of the filter. I was in years past spending a lot of money on filter because I wanted a filter that got the smallest particles possible. And the filters that Woosh gets from 3M, I think is probably one of the best filters around as far as getting particles out of the air. I've had my all the ductwork in the home cleaned. You'd be surprised what they found, including an old dried up burrito.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How random.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what workers, when they're building a house or some property like that, what they leave in hidden places.
Totally.
I found other things as I've been around. But anyway, that was impressive for me. It was impressive that I could watch and know when to change my filter and to be able to monitor the air quality in our home. All that was important to me. So that's one of the reasons, or some of the reasons, why I purchased it.
Wow, those are great reasons. And with that, kind of going off of that, do you feel like one of Woosh's goals is, or I guess key objectives, is to reduce allergens and dust in the home?
Absolutely.
Have you seen that? Oh, awesome.
Yes. Yeah, we have. I have the air return for the HVAC system. And for some reason, Colorado in the Front Range is very dusty. And I guess particularly out here because we got a lot of open fields and stuff, which are unfortunately disappearing. But right. So there's a lot of dust and stuff in the air here. And I have noticed that the amount of dust and dirt that adheres to the grates on the returns of the air returns has reduced.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm quite happy about that because I don't have to clean it so often now. Plus it tells me that the air in our home is cleaner than it was.
Totally. And are you set up, is your integration, or have you set up your integration with a smart thermostat?
Yes, I have. In fact, that was my first interaction with Winston. I received the thing and whoops, there we go. I don't need that. I received the unit, and I saw in some of the advertising and stuff that it supported my particular smart thermostat, which is the Ecobee thermostat. But in the app, I couldn't see what it is. So this was very impressive. So on a Sunday, I sent an email, and Winston replies within a few hours and says, yeah, that's coming. It's currently in beta. Would you be interested in doing the beta test? And so on and so forth. And I said, yeah. And I gave him a little bit of my background, just saying that, yeah, I like all things technical. I would be more than happy to beta, give you, any feedback information that you need, which is what I did. So I think you sent me, I think you set up my app so I could do it. I think probably within a week of that or something like that. Not too long, I don't remember. And then interfacing it with the Ecobee was quite easy.
Wow.
It just worked, and it's worked ever since. And so I like the fact that when the amount of smoke, et cetera, gets in the air in the home, that the air conditioner does turn on the fan for a period of time to help clear it. The only time in our home that we see it is when we fry something on the stove, like a hamburger or something.
Right.
I've moved it around the house a few times to try to figure out where I could put it to where it wouldn't be quite so sensitive. and there is no place in this place where I could put it. So it sits
Well,
over here in the living room.
that's awesome. I mean, it's good in sense, especially with dry air and everything,
Yeah.
like, and it is so, again, I mean, I'm from California, so coming here, I
Hmm.
just feel like I shrivel up. So it's great to have something like that. And monitoring, again, like what if smoke comes in the house, those Colorado fires, I think they were like 2 years ago. I remember those. I mean, there's always fires, but I remember those being really bad and just super smoggy.
Yeah. We get smoke here. We've gotten it this year, although there hasn't been a lot of Colorado. The way the winds and things work, the fires out in California and the ones up along in Oregon and in Canada
Yeah.
somehow blow down here. And I'm kind of high up here because I'm right near the hog backs,
Right.
just before you start the climb up into the mountains, and we can see very easily, when it's smoky here, which is unfortunately more often that we would prefer.
Right. Totally. I mean, it's always crazy. It'll just be in a day too. I walk out and it's
Yep.
it's I guess like clouded with smoke or very smoggy and
Right. Almost hazy. Yeah.
yeah, hazy. Yes, exactly. And I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But
And it's usually smoke. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, it just blows down. So with that, just curious on with all of these factors, does using Woosh make you feel more confident in the quality of your air and the health of your HVAC system in terms of combating these issues and just in your HVAC system generally?
Absolutely. Because first of all, I know the condition of the filter. The filter, like I said, is what is the term that you use for the filter that indicates
The MERV rating?
MERV rate? Yeah, it's one of the highest. It's one of the highest I think you can probably get for household. I don't know if you can find anything much higher. And I've always purchased ones with a high number as much as I could find, but they're not as high as a 3M filter that you use. So yeah, I feel
Awesome.
it's much better in here with the filter, and the fact that I can monitor the filter, and that again it monitors the air. So, and like I said, the only time it really goes off is when we do cooking.
Right. That's awesome. So glad to hear that. And with, setting it up and everything and do you find Woosh's stuff easy to use? Like in filter replacement and the air quality monitor, we kind of touched up how Winston had that around to get that up and running. But do you find it easy to use?
Oh yeah, the app is great. I mean, and you keep improving it now and then. When you started adding, the history, that was really nice. I really like that particular feature that's been added to it. And the app seems to be pretty dummy proof. I mean, I've never had any issues with it at all, not like other apps. And it's also pretty decently designed. Yeah, I like the visual design of it. That's good. It's very easy. To set it up was practically nothing.
Great.
It was very, very simple. Installing everything was super easy. I mean, you put the air quality monitor somewhere, you sync the thing up, you stick the filter in the slot where it goes in, and then you got the little transmitter that has magnets on it, and you just go, on the
Wow.
side of the HVAC, and you're done. That's it.
You're
That's all
done.
there is to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty new to the company and that's great to hear. I haven't gotten the chance to set up my Woosh filter yet, but
Oh, do it quick.
I'm very excited about it. I'm even more excited about it now. So that's awesome. And with the app, are there any features that you would want to see within the app? Just curious, just generally, and also like if you could have access to your data, would you like to see that?
Yeah, I think I would like to see some of that. I think that's interesting. Your engineers and Winston, when they see something that's sort of odd going on, they'll send me an email with look at the pressure has changed, which I'm not 100% sure I understand that, but just exactly what that designates. But I know it's obviously important because that's something that you watch.
Yeah.
But I think an explanation and actually Winston sent me that and I read it, but I forgot exactly what all that means. But I think that would be interesting.
Cool.
And the other interesting thing, is sort of a sidebar. I'm not convinced myself that this is worthwhile. But I was just doing a little quick research on the history of Woosh this morning, getting prepared for today, and I ran across a piece on a little blog. I automate my house with a product called Home Assistant. Home Assistant is sort of a do-it-yourself. You can program just about anything, and it works with most devices. And I do have a variety of devices here that I've accumulated over the years, and they're different brands, and so that kind of brings it all together. And the thing that I saw this morning was a guy asking, "Hey, has anybody ever gotten any information on an API, or so that you can automate and collect information from the Woosh filter?" Which I thought was kind of an interesting question. In fact, he even figured out what device you use to collect the information. And actually,
great to see that. Yeah, Larry, maybe if you can share that article with me directly, I can look at it, and I can pass that to our engineering team.
Yeah, I'll pull it up and send it to you. Not a problem. I can do that. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a device I've actually programmed a couple of. One operates my garage door, because I don't like the garage door manufacturer that charges me X number of dollars a month to use their API, which is ridiculous. I mean, what does it cost them, right? So, and one that monitors the temperature that is coming out of the back of my dryer, so that I know when my dryer's done. Because temperature's low, you turn the dryer on, temperature goes up, dryer's done, temperature goes down, and then it sends me a notice. It'll flash a little something on my television set telling me that the dryer's done. The washing machine does the same thing, and it used to announce it over with Alexa, but for some reason or other that broke, and I just haven't had the time to fix it. But pretty cool stuff. That's the kind of stuff I do.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, a home ecosystem is kind of what it's sounding like.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And that's really cool. Yeah. My parents are kind of getting into dipping their toes into that. So it's nice to hear that you've had such a great experience. And I didn't know that there were, I guess, so many ways to integrate smart features into your home, like the dryer one, I would have never known. So that's really awesome. And so do you, I guess, wish with that, like, can Woosh be integrated into your smart home? Just curious if it has that capability, or is that something you'd like to see? Like your smart ecosystem, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's something I would like to see, because as I think about it, like I said, this is just something that I saw this morning. It would be nice to be able to remotely, which through my Home Assistant could do, is if I'm gone or something and the air quality changes, to send me a notice. That would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
It sort of does it. You can do it now through notifications, but this would centralize it. Then I could record it and somewhere else, and then the ability to kind of monitor some of the things that it sees.
Larry, do you currently receive the notifications if we get an air quality alert or spike?
Yeah, I do. I've got it set pretty high because it was driving me a little nuts every time.
Yeah, if it's low,
she did cooking, so I've set it up a little higher.
Okay.
But I do get those notifications.
Oh, great. That's awesome. And we're kind of switching gears here, but still along the data side. Did you receive our newsletter? It's a test run, so it's possible.
Yeah, I received it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe that was something that you did on a regular basis. I have received one, yes.
That test run, and
yeah, just not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, and it showed some of your data, right? Do you think that would be something that is valuable for Woosh customers, just to get monthly, like a little excerpt of their data and some key blogs that Woosh has been working on? Did you find that helpful at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really would. Ecobee does it.
Oh.
Is it, Larry, are you able to open it quickly and just run through it? We just would love to get some direct feedback on.
That was fine. Yeah.
Great.
I opened it up. It rendered just fine. No delay.
It looks nice.
Yeah, and it was nice. And as I remember, it was very pleasingly laid out.
Great.
The colors and the way that it was set up, the visual effect of it was pretty good. I do a lot of web development, so yeah, I kind of look at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of the marketing, so that's great to know. And we'll keep up. Again, like, it's so crazy how much a difference like just a few colors can make, and like that's even just getting people to be drawn in and look at it. So glad that.
And it's a reminder,
right,
that, oh, hey, maybe I ought to check that thing. It's been a month.
Larry, one question I had: the actual chart that was on it. Do you have? Are you on your desktop now?
No, I'm on my iPad. We have
you're on your iPad. Okay.
Yeah, we have a shared office up there, and my wife is working today, so I came down here.
I'm just curious, when you saw the chart, what do you think about it? Because this is a question we've had internally. Sometimes too much data can leave questions if you don't know how to interpret it, and it's not something people often look at. So we were forward to start producing it to show, like, yes, the system does actually collect real data from your system, which we use to process. And that was the intent. But I'm curious how you interpret just seeing a chart, because you're more technical, tech savvy. But to a layman user, our concern was, maybe this is overwhelming them as well. So would love to get your feedback on how you think an end user might interpret this and what mental model they may draw from like what this is and what it's supposed to mean.
I didn't give it the attention maybe it deserved. I opened it up, I looked at it, I scrolled down, read a lot of it, saw the chart down at the bottom and looked at that. And my thought there was, oh, that's kind of interesting. But I didn't really take the time to try to digest what it was trying to tell me, to be honest.
And I think that's fine. Most people will just glance at a lot of their emails. I think the main piece, I think Nick can show you the data. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah, if you saw this, I'm just curious, you maybe had not even thought too much. It's great to look at it and just say, looks good, but if you see it now again, what do you think when you see this?
Yeah, it's a lot of dots. It's like I said, I don't quite understand what any of this is telling me. And, this wouldn't be particularly easy to do, but, if it was possible to put a little explanation that talks about this, I have a thing called an Aura ring, and they give you a lot of information that's personalized. If your heart rate's starting to drop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If there was a little synopsis on what this means to me. Oh, your pressure has stayed right, or we saw a little deviation here, et cetera, et cetera. Something that gave you a personalized explanation, the pressure data and what it means to me. I was a sales engineer for a good chunk of my life, and the job of a sales engineer is to get in front of both technical people as well as C-level, the middle managers, et cetera, and explain your technology to them so that they would understand it and make it easy, which is not a very easy task sometimes. So that's, people want to know on my product. They don't care about on my product, and it was a software product. They didn't care about all the speeds and feeds. They didn't care about all the technical aspect and all that other crap. What they wanted to know is, okay, if I put this in, how does it benefit me personally, and how does it benefit my customers? And basically, they really wanted, the C-level people want to know how it's going to benefit their customers and make their business better. They don't care about the layouts and stuff of the stuff. This is, what's this going to do for me?
Right.
And this, like I said, this is interesting. But it's a bunch of
would you say it's probably impossible for many people to interpret? Our part of this and why we show it is to just show you that it is working. When you see this, you may not understand it, but would you believe that what you bought is actually working?
Yeah, probably. I think most people that would receive this, including myself, if there was just something underneath it that said, hey, this is the pressure, your unit's working just fine. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just something to explain it. It could start out generic, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Unless, you see something that's weird or something, I don't know.
Okay.
Totally. It's actually, so Nick and I had been chatting about possibly making like a general guide to the chart that we could just kind of link in there. in terms of like, what the pressure means in this situation. Like, for example, that thick dotted line, I had no idea that that's when your fan turns on, right? That's right. Winston, Nick. Yeah. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. But yeah, that's when your fan turns on. And I would just assume that that was like buildup. And so like linking in a little guide, just because it get like, with newsletters, we like to keep them like short and quick. But if there is, I want to see more, just having a little, I guess, guide to interpreting the data that was more generalized. And then, as you said, adding a little personal flair for each one.
It kind of explains what's going on.
Got it. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, like websites. What do you got? Like 3 seconds to get somebody's attention. Otherwise, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing with this. But this is interesting. This we were gone for a month trying to get as much bicycle riding and exercise as I could before the surgery. And you can kind of see when we came back, because we had the system on vacation, so it didn't come on very often.
Right. Yeah, it is so interesting to see. Well, thank you. That's great feedback. And yeah, definitely we have talked about, kind of adding that extra general element, just so it's easier for you.
Yeah, so people can relate to it. That's the real important thing. So they can relate to what they're looking at.
100%. Yeah. And also I feel like the personal, it's already, you're getting your data. So just adding a little flair, that's great.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess my final question, and then we can kind of open it up if Nick and Winston have any more questions, but would you be quick to recommend Woosh to others?
Absolutely.
And if so, why? And what type of people do you think would really benefit from Woosh?
Well, anybody could benefit. The people that would be drawn attention to those would be people that probably are somewhat already attuned to home automation. And there's several, channels to, to find those individuals. And I think they would be very interested in it. The fact that you end up with cleaner air in your home, the fact that you've got one of the best filters on the market, et cetera, et cetera. I think those things should sell it. And the fact that it's, that it's extremely simple to install. It's not difficult at all. And changing the filter is not very difficult at all. I've done that once.
That's so awesome. And yeah, it's so great to hear that is, so easy, because I think, I don't know, a worry that some people may have is it's technological, And so with that, I personally, like when I hear new technology, I get a little worried. I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to figure this out, or
yeah.
So it's great to know that we can continue to advertise that it's easy.
It's very, very easy to install, and here's why you want it. Here's the benefits that you can relate to.
Awesome.
If you've got somebody in the house with asthma or or anything else where you're sensitive, or you just want to breathe clean air, which in Colorado is, down here on the Front Range sometimes is a challenge.
It is, that's for sure. Yeah. And so just to summarize, so that we can have, if you're okay with, a little snippet of a testimonial, what would you say, kind of your experience with Woosh has been, and why you would recommend it to others? Just like a little repeat, so that we can kind of grab that little bit and run with it.
Putting the Woosh in is very simple, very easy. It took me maybe, a half hour, and most of that was probably unpacking everything and seeing what I had and doing a quick look at the instructions. I'm not very good at looking instructions, so, you just figure some stuff out. And since we've had it, I feel very comfortable about knowing how clean the air is in my home. So, because I was considering some other things like ultraviolet light and things like this, the Woosh tells me that I really don't need anything like that. And so in that case, it really saved me some money. The high quality filter is just very top of the line, and that's important to me as well. And not having to change the filter, every 3 months just because it's 3 months. That's also kind of nice too, because that gets expensive, especially if you want fairly high, good filters.
Awesome. That was great. Well, thank you so much. That's kind of all the questions I had, and it was great to learn about your experience with Woosh. It gets me so excited hearing about other people's experience and how awesome
Oh,
Woosh
I
is.
bet it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
So yeah, here for Winston and Nick to.
Yeah, Larry, I deeply appreciate, our relationship in terms of both you being a supporter of our business in the earlier days and obviously working through some of the new feature launches. We haven't done as much on the mobile side this past year as we did previously, and it's partly just areas of focus for us. We have grown a lot in the B2B space, so it's caused us to redirect some efforts there. But for consumers and users, the things you mentioned with the API integration and other aspects are important. So I want to take this feedback back to the team to figure out how we can look at prioritizing certain things that will kind of further that experience. But it was great hearing your feedback directly. These are all aspects that we care a lot about: ease of setup, the actual impact it has on air quality in the home, the extension of filter life if we can make it longer, particularly for good filters. And then I think the other piece really is, and I'm curious for you, you mentioned the air quality is really important to you and your wife. And this is like a growing concern. Like, my dad cares a lot about air quality as he's gotten older. One thing I'd like to ask you more directly is, what are the impacts that you think realistically hit the older demographic when they think about air quality? And it's not necessary, is this a solution that you think is cost effective and holistic for them? Because what it gets put up against is what you mentioned: buying UVC, buying a bunch of air purifiers that you have to manage throughout the room. So I just would love to hear some direct feedback on your thoughts on, Woosh being a solution to particularly help with the older demographic, which cares about air quality. But, is it cost effective, do you think? Do you think it's holistic and something that will give them options compared to what else is out there today?
Well, in my own case, I have, and had them for a long, long time, I have these little nodule things in my lungs, which creates an issue with being able to breathe extremely well. It doesn't affect my normal stuff. It doesn't affect my bicycle riding and things like that. One of the things I discovered when I moved to Colorado is I can't swim at this particular altitude because I can't get enough oxygen because of my lungs. And so, for those reasons, air quality is really important because I don't need any more stuff in my lungs than what's already there and to clog it. I'm an ex-smoker, and that makes me even to a more disadvantage. I haven't picked up a cigarette in 35, 40 years or something like that, but the damage is still there. It never goes away. And you understand that as you get older. The older we get, because of the experiences of life, then we start thinking about some of these things because your body is aging. Stay away from the word downhill, but that's kind of it. Getting older is not for wuses, let me clue you. It's hard. I'm 78 years old. I'll be 79 in 3 weeks. Yeah, pretty soon, within a couple of weeks. So,
Happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I tell my doctors and people, I'm a very young 78.
You do look and you act it, so
that's important.
You don't look a day over 50.
Yeah.
That's very sweet. Thank you. And I think with older people, they are concerned about such things. And, a lot of older people have had time, through their careers, et cetera, to have a little bit, higher amount of money that they can spend on such as things, and those are priorities to them. This would be my opinion. I don't know for sure, but that's what I think.
Okay, wonderful. No, thank you for that. That's it from my end, Mylan. Nick, I don't know if you have any questions on your side.
No, not really. Just, thank you, Larry, for taking the time to give us this feedback. It means a lot to us to be able to really connect with people using the product and benefiting from it directly, because we always have these assumptions. So it's always nice to just confirm or rule them out.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, get a little feedback because, you don't want to be just taking your product and throwing it in a hole. You want to really know whether it's doing any good. I have a couple of questions for you. I received an email a few weeks ago, and I think it was just before I went in for surgery, and pretty much had to, I ignored everything for a while. And the email said there's been a change in your pressure. Did anything happen on this particular date? I went back. I think I responded. I responded about the same time. I responded back to you, Elan, with, I don't know. I didn't really see anything other than we've had some downstairs vents closed off that I've unclosed that I've opened up. So I'd like a follow up on that if you can find that person. The other question I have is, my filter's been sitting on 55% for a very long time. And is that normal?
Nick, I don't know if you've run the current chart, but we do see this. So Larry, one thing, maybe we'd have to look at the specific data, and I'll work with Nick.
No, I understand.
Make sure. But what I can say is we do see a lot of systems that usually it's like during seasonal change, what happens is the filter loads up, let's say in the summer, when the air conditioner is running, which typically runs at a much higher speed. And what we do see sometimes is when there's a switch over to heating in the furnace, heating generally runs at a slower speed. So when we explicitly talk about the pressures, because it's a lower speed, it now just kind of locks in that pressure, because it's going to take time for the heating speed to kind of like fill the filter as much as the air conditioning one was. So it's actually improved the filter, if you may, and it's going to take time for it to get back to the same state it was for cooling. Now, cooling may come back in again, and you'll see that filter change happen again, maybe more dramatically. But this is partly why it's not necessarily linear, if you may. Like the filters don't just fill up gradually with stuff in the ways that we think it does. It might from a dirt perspective, but because you're running at different speeds, the filter, its fullness is described by how much airflow is going through in addition to, or the speed at which it's going through, in addition to how much stuff is in the filter. So I know that's a bit more of a technical description. It's easier to show in some charts, which I'm happy to do so at a later point. But that's what probably is sticking it at that percentage. So from our perspective, airflow is fine, but it hasn't hit back the kind of clogging level that you had during the summer.
Do you get very many inquiries from some of your other customers, users, with somewhat the same question?
Yeah, I don't know, Nick, you probably can chime in here. We get a lot. This is partly why we were asking so many questions about showing the chart, because we have our own proprietary. So we've worked with technicians and HVAC OEMs to understand kind of like algorithmically how we need to characterize things. But it's hard for consumers to understand, all the considerations you need to make happen. But the question you ask is quite common, which is, people either have a mental model that I change it every 3 months. So it goes from 100% to 0 every 3 months. And in their mind, it's like driving a car. As I drive, I just run out of gas and it's a perfectly straight line. But in reality, air filters don't really work the same way, because there's heating and cooling and different speeds. And so as an example, it's like if you were only driving on the highway, or if you're only driving and stop and go, your fuel economy can change quite dramatically. And that sort of is the case when you look at air filters, but it's much wider. So I'll give an example. If you have a home that runs a very low airflow speed constantly, right? It's just constantly running airflow and ventilation. I'd argue that filter probably could last an extremely long time, years, because it just doesn't clog, because the airflow is never moving that quickly, right? It's never pushing through a lot of air. But if you have some of these air conditioners that have, extreme cooling requirements in the home, some really hot days, so the system is working really hard and blowing as much, because the longer the air conditioner runs, the harder the compressor has to work. So the fan wants to blow as much air through as it can to cool the house. There, it's very different. Your filter is very sensitive now. The system is very sensitive to how full the filter is. And so these are all like the deeper considerations as to what we have to make. And so you're right. People ask this question and we try to explain it in layman's terms, but it is difficult. And that's partly why we are trying to be more proactive in sharing some of the charts and FAQs to help people understand. But the reality is most people will never understand the detail we will. And number two, I think one challenge is the mental model today of changing your filter every 3 months is kind of like saying that everybody wears the same one size fits all shoe. It's a broken mental model from the beginning, so it's very hard to like correct, right? Everybody thinks, I just change it every 3 months, but here we have people who have to change in 2 weeks. We have people who would have to change for 1 year, and these are like in the same population of people. So imagine I sold you a car and I told you you don't have to fill up gas for 1 million miles, and I told somebody else when you drive to work you got to fill up for gas, and they're the same person. It's very hard for them to resolve mileage, So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but
Yeah,
that is a challenge we have.
Yeah, it's the mentality. It's sort of like with the, the quick oil change. People tell you, oh, you got to change your oil in your car every 3 months. Well, that's not what the manufacturer says, but they just want your business.
Yeah.
The same thing with rinse and repeat on shampoo.
Yeah.
It's all marketing stuff. So on the newsletter, just I'm sure you probably already thought of this. Something. Hey, your filter's doing great. Why don't I have to change it every 3 months? It's because,
Yeah, we might have to.
Yeah, we monitor the airflow. People understand that, and that's what pressure is airflow. The airflow coming in and out of the filter, and we know that your filter's in good shape.
I think that's really good feedback.
Yeah,
we can do a better job just asserting the questions that might be in the back of people's minds before they have to ask them.
Yeah. As technicians, we have a real problem with trying to explain things for the layman, and the step away from what we call the speeds and feeds, right? But get into how can my grandmother understand it?
Yeah.
Or worse yet, my grandfather.
Yeah. And it's tricky. The HVAC system is a black box to most people.
Oh yeah.
It's challenging to explain how cooling works in So one more thing, but we have to continue to try and explain it better, because people will regardless have questions, and it will prevent them from benefiting from newer solutions. And to your point, changing it every 3 months, we've learned, is good when you have no alternative. But as you've seen, filters can last longer.
Right.
And, in many cases, they can last extremely long if you just don't use it that much. But it really depends on the situation. And that's part of, I think, smarter usage as a whole. But you have to cross that bridge, and we have to help explain why, they should be okay.
Yeah. And people freak out the same as I did when you pull out the filter and says, wow, there's a lot of stuff in this filter. It freaked out the HVAC technician that came in, he comes in once a year to check the system.
Yeah. No, and I realized we have one blog article, if you ever take a look, called "Looks Can Be Deceiving," and it's unfortunately the case that as you mentioned, measuring airflow is something humans can't do, machines, but humans can see things very well, which has nothing to do with airflow per se.
Yeah.
We do try to get past or ahead of that conversation as well. That's where most of the feedback from users come, where they're like, it looks dirty. The problem is how it looks dirty is extremely subjective. I could show you a filter that I would say is clean and somebody thinks it's horrible, and I could show you another one that's I think it's horrible and they think it's clean. And so there's no universal measure of how things look, which is a systemic issue for humans in general, because we're not great judges of recalling or calibrating our eyesight. So it's difficult.
Right. Plus, as you said, it's a big black box that sits in the basement.
Yeah.
The only time I worry about it is when it stops working, and then I call somebody.
We try to get ahead of that. So some of the stuff you haven't seen yet is the diagnostic data we continually run of our system. And if we do see an issue early, we will notify you. And that's a benefit you haven't seen yet from us, probably.
Yeah.
So this would be
that's kind of a did you know?
Yeah, that's more did you know. Coil freezing, we see it early. We see stuff in later. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's, imagine a mask where you can see how the heart is functioning, right? And the veins and the arteries are really the ductwork. So because we're the mask, we can see how the air flows and how well the heart is pumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coil freezing was a big issue when I lived in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Here,
Not as much.
yeah. Here, you never see it.
Larry,
Well,
have you checked out our blogs?
I have not.
Okay, Winston's been really grinding on them, and we're popping them out, and would love for you to check them out. They're about like the stuff that we were just talking about, like Winston mentioned, the looks could be deceiving one, which was so interesting. And now we have one on coil freezing, and also how long do Woosh filters really last? And yeah, so we've been trying to, get some good content out. And if you have any suggestions for blogs that you'd like to see, definitely.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I'll probably check it out today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because for some reason in my brain, I'm not aware of plot. That there was, I've probably seen it on the website, but just never paid a lot of attention, I guess.
Yeah. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Winston, we've just started building more and more, right?
Yeah.
Recently. So
yeah, we've been, so Larry, if you do have a chance, you'll see it off our website under blogs.
Okay.
And I've tried to put a concerted effort towards being more educational and driving awareness. And you'll be surprised, like there's a lot of data that we see that I think we're the first company to actually see this kind of information. So if you have any suggestions, because you've been a more informed but engaged user or customer, and it's very helpful to see how you think about things, because when we first started engaging, there was a certain amount of, I think, criticality you had in terms of, just generally understanding things a bit more than the normal person of what this is. But that really helps us, because we want to invest in the content that helps educate people to get them to your level a bit more, because, this type of solution, it's more advanced than just a cardboard filter. So It takes time and adoption, but
by a factor of about 3,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate the time and the feedback and the opportunity to have you as a customer.
You bet. Milan, I'm sorry. On the blog, one of the things you might consider in the newsletter, a couple of my other technical gadgets send me newsletters. They'll somewhere on that thing. So check out our new blog is the name, and then maybe they might have, the first half of a paragraph or something with a, press here to read the rest of it. And that might help a little bit on that to get more people over to some of these. Really, what you've mentioned, the things that you've written, that's really important for people to understand.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get that out, you'll probably get less questions coming back too.
Right. Totally. I think that's the goal of our newsletter to come. So yeah. It's great feedback.
Because the blog is like documentation, right? That's what it is, except it goes much deeper into specific questions and things. Excellent. Okay.
Awesome.
I'm done.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Larry. It was so nice to meet you. And yeah, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks again for coming on and chatting with us.
You bet. And, thank you for the support you've given me. It's made this journey on this thing a lot more interesting and fun. So I appreciate it.
All right. Best of luck with your shoulder.
Yeah. I'll look up and I'll send you that article.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Larry.
You bet.
Have a wonderful holidays.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Going back east.
There we go.
That's where the Weiss family is. Okay. Thank you.
Here.
Bye, Larry. Thank you.